Eminent Chancellor, Mr. President, Mr. Principal, and a personal word of gratitude to the Master of Massey College, John Fraser, not only for the very gracious words, but for the mentorship that you provided to myself as a student and to both of us in the years that have followed. Thank you. To Olivier Sorensen, who hooded us as a TA and as someone who's continued to teach me not only about French, but about social justice. Merci pour votre métier. As you might imagine, with both Marc and I, it is an extraordinary honor to be standing in front of you. To receive an honorary doctorate is truly the honor of a lifetime. To be able to receive it from one's alma mater leaves me almost speechless. And so Marc graciously provided me the opportunity to share words on behalf of the two of us. Now, I start with a quote. Now, some of you may suspect that it's not often that Marc and I quote the former American president, George W. Bush. Yet standing before his own alma mater of Yale University, to the graduating class, he once said, "To those of you who have finished with a C- average, congratulations. I'm sure you'll go on to do," to those of you who finished with an A average, congratulations. I'm sure you'll go on to do great things. To those of you who finished with the C- average, perhaps one day you too will be President of the United States. Graduates, in all seriousness, as a fellow alumnus of U of T myself, I know how hard you all worked in order to be here today. Long hours, countless exams and papers, maybe a few all-nighters, maybe more than just a few all-nighters. You deserve to be incredibly proud to walk across this stage, as do all of those individuals who are here today in support of you. Graduates, please take a moment to look around you, to your parents, to your partners, to your family, to your friends. You know, we are joined by our own parents, including our father, who's an alumnus. These individuals who fill these seats, they are incredibly proud of you here today. And I want to provide you the opportunity that both my brother and I hold so dearly to recognize your family and friends for their support and to express your gratitude. Graduates, please recognize our guests for their support with a round of applause. To graduate from the University of Toronto, Scarborough campus, is a great distinction. It's a rare honor in a world and a level of education that very few will achieve. We live in a world where 113 million children between the ages of 5 and 11 years of age have never once stepped foot into a classroom, never learned to read or write, never learned to count the money that they earn, never learned even to sign their own signature, placing their thumb in ink and their thumbprint at the bottom of the page. As Master Fraser shared with you, both Marc and I have a passion for education for children around the world. And so we humbly ask, as you take a moment to recognize those around you who have made your education possible here today, to also take a moment and to think of those who are not as fortunate to be with us here today. We've worked alongside children to see their reality in the fields and the mines of Brazil, or children in rural parts of Pakistan who are bought and sold as slaves, paying off debt taken by their parents or even their grandparents, passed generation to generation. Or children in Sierra Leone, West Africa, who fought as child soldiers. Over 30,000 children fought in that war. Children who were forcibly recruited when the rebels would burn their schools to the ground and execute their teachers. Both Marc and I will never forget meeting a young boy 8 years old, a young boy who worked in the Philippines just outside Manila, the capital, in a garbage dump. His name, Jeffrey. And at one point I asked Jeffrey, "Have you ever been to school?" And he looked at me and then He looked at his father, who was working alongside him, and he asked his father, "What is school?" Because not only had he never received an education, never been to school, he had never even once left this garbage dump where he was born, where he worked, and where he spent all his days. Although we build schools around the world for children, it's those same children who have taught us the greatest lessons. One time we brought a group of young Canadian volunteers to Thailand, and we were walking down the street in Bangkok, the capital, and a young street girl called out to Marc and I. And she cupped her hand and touched her mouth, and it's a universal sign in developing countries when children are asking for food. A young volunteer with us reached into his backpack and handed her an orange. We saw as she held it in her hands and started to peel it, but tear at it because she was so hungry. And then we saw when she stopped to look at all the other children who were around her, all the other children who were also hungry, and started to break that orange into tiny pieces and to share an equal piece with each one of those children. Graduates like that young girl on the streets of Thailand, will you open your eyes both to your local and global community? Will you share the precious gift that you will soon hold in your hands here today? Because as you hold that university diploma, that education, we ask you to think not only about what it can do for you, but what it allows you to do for others in this world. As an individual myself who's a proud alumnus from this university, I know that this is a critical turning point in one's life. And I know from this point onwards, there are many important decisions that lie ahead. How do you accomplish and measure the successes you're looking for? You know, is success measured simply in the job title one achieves? The size of the bank account, the car we drive? I think in our heart, we all know that the true success is something more meaningful, more lasting. You know, it's tempted to leave our universities and to forget everything else except that simple equation often drilled into our minds, that equation that's so tempting at times, that MBA equals BMW. But true success is more lasting. And I don't mean having a building with your initials on it or having a street named after you. You know, we saw the rise and fall of political leaders in the past months. Wall Street was brought to its knees in the past recent years. Even the pyramids get covered with the sands of time. I think in our heart, we all know that true success is something lasting. The only thing that truly lasts is a living legacy. You know, every time that a woman of color sits at the front of a bus, we see the living legacy of Rosa Parks. Every time that a woman in this country, in Canada, casts a ballot, we see the living legacy of the famous five. Think about it. Terry Fox's father left an amazing legacy, as did Nelson Mandela's mother. If you're important in the life of a child, you leave an extraordinary legacy. If you bring joy and happiness and fulfillment to your family, you leave an extraordinary legacy. The person who taught Marc and I about the true meaning of a legacy is perhaps one of our world's greatest teachers, Mother Teresa. We both had the honor to work alongside her in Calcutta before she passed away, the iconic image of compassion for our time. She doesn't hold much in the traditional definition of success. She didn't graduate at the top of her class. She never even went to university. She wasn't wealthy in the traditional definition of the word. She wasn't beautiful, if beauty is what we define on the front page of those fashion magazines. In fact, most amazingly, Mother Teresa, she was about that tall. She was a tiny woman, but she had a big heart. And And that's what made her such a powerful person. And as we were leaving the mother house on the final day, I worked up the courage to ask her this question I'd always wanted to ask her. And to ask her, how do you do it? How do you work every day alongside people who are suffering and who are dying, knowing that you cannot help every person? And when I asked her that question, Mother Teresa, she smiled at it. She took my hands into hers, and she had hands like sandpaper, literally, after a lifetime of service. She looked me in the eyes. And when Mother Teresa looked you in the eyes, you literally felt as if she was looking into your soul. And as she smiled at the question, she said, you have to realize, in our lives, we do no great things, but we can do small things with great love. And she said that's how we change this world for the better, with those small acts, those small things, with great love every day. So on behalf of Marc and myself, we're deeply honored to stand before you to celebrate the accomplishments of the 2011 University of Toronto Scarborough campus and all that you've accomplished, and with the new opportunities to take action, however small, but with great love, and to truly change this world for the better. Thank you.